Hi guys, welcome to Windsome Cottage Garden. My name is Hannah and I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. We are in the home garden and today we are going to be getting our cutting flowers planted. Now, if you have followed my journey, last year we were in a different garden, which I kind of refer to as a city garden, and a lot of my cutting gardens were integrated into the landscape. In this garden, there is a lot of opportunity to place the cutting garden different areas because there's a lot of blank slates and a lot of beds to be created. I didn't start cutting flowers quite in the same way that I have in years past. In some ways I cut back and in some ways I turned it up a notch. I definitely cut back on the number of different plants that I started, but for those varieties I actually started a lot more than I normally do. In order to accommodate this, especially since I don't have a lot of bed space that I normally would kind of tuck these in, especially as plants bulk up in size, I decided to do some row style growing, which I haven't been able to do in my past garden, so I'm excited about it because I think it'll make staking easier. But today we're going to be getting in the ground all my dahlias, all my zinnias, as well as the status and cosmos I started. So only 4 different kinds of things, but it probably represents hundreds of plants. Now, we've already actually started this process. My dad was here last weekend and he helped me get the rows in place and I planted them up after he left. I'm going to insert here the process of getting the bed set up and then we'll come back and I will walk you through the varieties we've got going a little bit more. As you might have imagined, we've run into a number of things with this project. We've run into a couple irrigation pipes in places that don't logically make sense, but there they are. We also have run into fabric that has just been buried. This is like flummoxing us a little bit. If you can tell us what this purpose might be, it would be helpful because as you can see, the fabric is like, I don't know, 18 inches deep and underneath it is perfectly flat sand. Like, but why would they just do this? Like in the middle of the yard. There's no beds here. There was grass all the way along. It's going towards our neighbor's property. Like, and it's at least 18 inches down. It seems perfectly flat and the ground rises. So it just seems such a confusing way. So we did find another piece that was just a random like square. And we were hoping that's what this was, but it's not. It won't interfere with the dahlias because it's pretty deep down. And I think what it just means is as I plant things in this area that have roots that go deeper, we will have to dig down till probably 2 feet to make sure that There's no random fabric. At first we were like, is this the drainage field? But we know it's not because it's in line with the house. You can actually see where the tanks are that the grass has died off in. If anyone has any great ideas as to what the purpose of this is, please share. I also like it's in really good condition. Dad thinks it's because it's just well preserved. But like if it was with the age of the house, it would be like 30 years old. That doesn't look like 30 years in the ground to me. Here is another pipe that we ran into and nicked. And we got really lucky because there's 3 of them we discovered that run along this trench. And they happen to be in line with the rototiller. Why they're here, we don't know. Because typically supply lines are run around the perimeter. The only guess we have is that maybe he did it himself and did it in an atypical manner. The previous homeowner, that is. But my dad got this fixed. I don't think I recorded that because I was using you somewhere else. And the good news was he had also broken something else earlier today when he was planting Ann Magnolia, which you guys will have already seen. He broke another pipe. So he learned how to do that and was able to do it twice in a row. And I now have the supplies because since we've determined that they run in odd places, it seemed like a good idea to make sure they were on hand. So we're gonna cut this out. I'm gonna tidy up the rows and then we will get planting our dahlias and zinnias. All right, it is the next day and I'm ready to get these planted. I am hoping I can fit all of my dahlias and zinnias in here, but I think it's going to be a little bit tight. I am going to be planting them a tiny bit closer than probably is best. Dahlias is suggested 18 to 24 inches. Most of what I'm planting today are going to be seed dahlias. I am going to plant those on closer to the 18-inch size and sneak out 3 rows in this, which is approximately 3 feet wide. So that's about, but I'm going to kind of stagger them like checkerboard style. So I think that'll give it a little bit more space. And I'm going to try and place the ones that I think are a little bit bigger in the middle sections. So I don't think it'll be okay. We'll figure out which ones are bigger and need more space in the future, but this is all right for now. There might be a slight airflow issue later in the year. But again, I am not too worried about that because we get pretty good breezes through here. So I'm hoping things like powdery mildew and whatnot don't set in. And because some of these are seed dahlias, they'll probably be on the smaller side as well. I am also going to be doing zinnias, hopefully, in this area. My priority is dahlias, then zinnias. And those spacings are like 8 to 12 inches. So again, I'm probably going to go more like the 8-inch side of things. And we'll have to figure out staking. I have somewhere horticulture netting that you kind of like set up so it can grow through, but I got a while before I have to worry about that. But it is something that I'm going to keep on my radar to help kind of keep these upright and looking good and maintain the path between them. So I'm going to get you all set up. We'll see how far we go. I would absolutely love it if I had more space because I have more cutting flowers. I need to figure out where they're going. But for now, this is a great start and I'm excited to get the dahlias in the ground here at the home garden. as I teased in my Wednesday video where we planted a couple roses and a shrub, one of the areas you saw is right by the St. Swithin David Austin rose that we planted, and I can finally give you a back view of what it looks like. Here she is. Now, this St. Swithin's rose is going to be part of a garden bed eventually. Eventually, I'd like the garden bed to kind of cruise around here and do a curve before kind of going on along this way. So for now, this is not an area I'm planning on developing more than planting the Ann Magnolia and probably getting one more shrub started over there if I can decide 100% what I want and get it started. So this year, this makes the most sense and use of this space. Now, these beds, we had a hard time going in. We used a rototiller, and if you kind of followed logic as to where sprinkler lines would be, they should have kind of gone around the perimeter or been in line with where sprinklers were. I think I did pop in and tell you, there was like 2 or 3 over here. There was one over here we broke. We ran into some other stuff here, including fabric. But we got these beds set up, and I came back in the next day and got all of these seedlings planted. So let me go over what we have here and give you a little idea of what's to come, because I can't wait to see this space in August. On this side, we took about 16 plants. These are all dahlias we overwintered or my mom bought this year. And we pre-started these a long time ago. So this is why they are looking so much better than the ones started here. These are all floret dahlias that I started from seed. They're looking a tiny bit sad. They stayed in their trays probably a little longer than they should have. But I think they're gonna settle into the soil well. They each got a little pinch of biotone starter fertilizer, and I think in 2 weeks they're gonna shoot up. I'm trying to decide if I want to come in and pinch them right now, or I think what I'm probably gonna do is let them sit for probably a week and then come in and pinch them so that they can get settled before they have that trauma put on them. As I mentioned, we did start those from seeds. Now with seed dahlias, there's no guarantee exactly of what you're gonna get. Essentially, if you want to get an exact type of dahlia, you need to grow it from a tuber. If you have a tuber from the mother plant, it will be the same type as the mother plant, or if you take a cutting from it. These, you have 2 different flowers genetics coming together, and there's no guarantee about how they will kind of come out. Floret this year introduced 2 new mixes. One she called her Shooting Stars Dahlia mix, and one she called her Petite Floret. She also had a Bee's Choice mix. And what that is they were just certain kinds of plants in isolation, so she knew what the cross-pollinators were going to look like, and you had an idea of what the type of flowers could look like. The Bee's Choice was the Bee's Choice. Wherever the wind took him, wherever he pollinated, that's what you got. So all of these are going to be new varieties. Some of them are going to be duds, and we're not going to save them. Some of them are going to be beautiful, and we'll kind of keep on the tubers propagating, and I'm excited to see what they look like. We have a good number of plants for all of these, and these are all of my florets. We were going to plant some at the cottage and some here. We decided to do it all here, and then the cottage is going to have a lot more of our storage dahlias this year than my garden would typically have more. So let me show you the different sections. So starting here up until here, this is all our Shooting Star dahlias, and I'll pop a picture of what those look like. And then here, all the way to the end, are all our Petite Floret dahlias. So I think there's probably, I don't know, 6, 12, 18, 24-ish plants per variety. And then if we kind of come up to this row, this is mainly zinnias, which we'll kind of come up to in a minute. But I did have 5 Bee's Choice, which was really just finishing out a flat. And then we start my zinnias. Now these are all our tried and true favorite zinnias, though I did plant some florets in a different area. We have our Giant Dahlia Red Zinnia. Let's see, what's this? Oh, our Benary's Giant Lime, and this I think is just, yeah, Benary's Giant Mix. Then we get into the Queen Lime. So we've got our Queen Lime Lemon Peach over here, Queen Lime Blush, Queen Lime Orange, Queen Red Lime, which is my favorite. And then we get into the Cinderella Peach, Pamilla's Choice, and Mazuka. Let's see, what is this? Yeah, Mazurika. I can never say it, as well as the Taiki's choice. So, a big, beautiful row of zinnias. The plan with this year is to get some stakes and have horticultural netting. I think it's called Hortinovo netting or something like that, which I own somewhere. I just need to find it and stake it so they can grow through at a couple different levels. That hopefully that will keep them up and looking good. But so these are zinnias are ones that I've tried. I also ran out of space, as you could tell. Oh, and I also should mention, they're a little close. A little close. Zinnias, I think, suggest they need about 8-ish inches, and this is probably more like 6. There's some areas that might be closer to 4. And then dahlias, I read, you can do anything like a foot to 18 inches. For the larger plants, I did give them more space, but when I got to the seedlings, they will put on some size, but not quite the same volume of size as those, because those were pretty big clumps. And so I did about a foot for these guys. And hopefully they like it. I think that their leaves are already beginning to look a little bit healthier. They were starting to look a little sad in their little spots. That I ran out of space for all my zinnias, and I didn't get any of my floret zinnias in there. And I have a couple of really cool ones this year that I'm excited about. And so we found a new spot to do another row that you saw over by the vegetable garden. Here it is. You can see I actually got a line out and strung it. So originally it was going to be in line, but then what I realized was the line I strung, I went on one side, and I realized doing a second side would make it kind of hard with the oak leaf hydrangeas here. So I went on the other side. So it's close and parallel, but not quite the same. But this is where the floret zinnias ended up that she came out with this year. And I messed up in labeling. And these are actually a lot closer than they probably should be. But it's going to be beautiful. We already have a bloom. Look at this one. So pretty and petite. And then we also did the status that I had, which I never thinned and just decided to plant because nothing venture, nothing game. And the cosmos, which I also need to pinch. But look at this one. This is a pretty big flower for a cosmo. I'd say it's maybe 2.5, 3 inches, and it's got beautiful color. But I should come in and pinch them all about here. Again, I'm going to let these settle for a little while before I do that. Now, normally when I come in and I'm doing seedlings, I will have, if I'm doing 6-packs, which was how those were started, I will put a tag in every 6-pack. What I did with this is something that I typically do when I have like a flat that gets inserted that doesn't come apart, where I'll start and say, okay, this type starts here and goes along, and then at this point, this type starts. So I went to go pull out my zinnias, and I realized that they'd gotten reordered, and the only ones that I knew exactly what they were the ones that the tags were in. And so I actually took those, and those are going to my mom's house because some of the ones I started were for her. So she's going to have a 6-pack of each of the varieties. But we did the unicorn mix, the precious metals mix, the golden hour, and the little flower girl mix. And so that line right there is all of those mixes together. And the cosmos was a variety of cosmos. I think I planted all the ones I had except maybe 2 or 3. And it's just my favorite varieties mixed in. So I don't even know what that big beautiful flower is, but it is looking pretty good. Now, these do need to be pinched, as I said. I'm going to probably post this video before I pinch them, so we might include that on a work day, or I might just do it one day as I get home from work next week. But I think this is going to be a really interesting experiment for me, having this row style, which typically, as I said, I kind of do it in the landscape, which I prefer, but I'm wondering from a staking perspective if this is going to be a lot easier to stake and maintain. Now I need to actually do the staking, which is sometimes where I kind of fall behind a little bit. But I'll have you guys to help keep me accountable, and hopefully I can do it before it gets too far ahead of me. I wanted to share with you that big project because that's going to be these areas. The bulk of what we're doing to them this year looks like using them for cut flowers. I might do it for another year as we develop more areas, and I'll be focusing on garden beds along the house and in the front yard a little bit more, and leave these to evolve as time goes on. So I hope you enjoyed this video and seeing the start of this. I think this marks the last of the seedlings I have to plant that I started. I do have coleus, which I'm going to be doing in some pots and along the front, which we'll probably do in the next week or two. I have geraniums, which are languishing a little bit. They needed to be potted up, and I never did because I didn't have pots or space, but I could probably do that now, or I could just pot them where they're going to go and see what happens this year. I'm probably going to plan a little bit better, but if you're like me, when you're starting seeds, you're like so excited to get things started, and then you quickly run out of space. You've been caring for them, now you want to get them out of the house, and now I'm focused on other things. And I can't wait for these to grow up and grow out. But I'm also glad that the seedlings are done. I do have some winter sowing stuff still yet to go, but in general, most of them are already done. So lots and lots of progress have been made, and I am excited for these spaces. Hopefully you're excited too. If you want to continue watching this garden's journey, please subscribe so you can follow this garden here, our home garden, as well as our cottage garden, which we document as well. We're going to be headed up that way soon to work on a couple projects, so check back. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate you joining me in this video, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.